Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago PD cast. New episode features Delaney Williams and Benjamin Levy Aguilar. The new episode of Chicago PD had Officer Dan Torres going undercover at a juvenile detention center. This center was where Torres, Benjamin Levy Aguilar, spent time as a teen, making him uniquely qualified for the task. It also served as a gateway to introduce Delaney Williams during his first episode on the Chicago PD cast. Delaney Williams played Warden J. Scott in Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 12, The Good Shepherd. Long before he joined the Chicago PD cast, Delaney played Sergeant J. Landsman on the hit show The Wire. Williams has also appeared on Law and Order, Special Victims Unit as John Buchanan, R. Gregory Skoll on Ray Donovan, and recently in the miniseries We Own This City as Kevin Davis. Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 12 Recap. This new episode was designed to showcase Dan Torres, and Benjamin Levy Aguilar was up to the task. After attending church, Torres went to work, where intelligence was serving a series of warrants. At one house, Torres found blood on a garage door. Upon investigation, a young teen was found dead. The teen was supposed to be serving a sentence at the local juvenile detention center and had not been reported missing. Something was up, and the investigation began. Torres goes undercover on Chicago PD. Torres went undercover as a guard to investigate the case from the inside. This provided him access to the warden, the guards, the facilities, and all the kids being held. It was difficult for Torres to investigate because it triggered bad memories from his past, but it served as a good exploration of the character. Through his investigation, the team discovered that kids were being abused in the basement of the center by one of the guards. The episode's tone made it seem like the warden would be responsible, but he had no idea. A kid who was being abused was able to escape before dying of his injuries, and that was the person Torres found earlier in the episode. Intelligence served a warrant on the home of the guard, who turned his gun on Torres so that Torres would shoot him. Torres obliged, shooting and killing the guard. More from the One Chicago shows. Some Chicago PD spoilers reveal a wedding is coming. This should give fans something to look forward to later this season. Here's what happened to Mouch and Cruz on Chicago Fire. Fans missed the two main characters. CTH Pounder joined the Chicago Med cast. The award-winning actress previously starred in The Shield and NCIS, New Orleans. Previous episodes of Chicago PD are streaming on Peacock. The usual hum of Chicago's South Side was broken by the screeching sirens of a police car cutting through the night. Detective Kim Burgess, Marina Squirciati, and Officer Adam Ruzick, Patrick John Pfluger, were racing toward the scene of a double homicide when the call came in. The team was in full motion, everyone operating at their best as they responded to the bloody crime scene that was now their responsibility. But for Delaney Williams, Benjamin Levy Aguilar, and his partner, Officer Leah Gutierrez, new character, played by Delaney Williams, something about this case felt different. Something about it felt too close to the line between right and wrong. As the two entered the scene, the camera zoomed in on Delaney's face. He was focused, but something lingered behind his eyes. It was more than just a case of the day, it was the type of thing that set the gut on edge. The victims were high profile, two figures from a gang-affiliated business venture that had been escalating recently, making it clear that whoever did this knew what they were dealing with. But there was no telling who might have had a motive. Delaney's instincts said this wasn't as simple as it seemed. Two bodies, a lot of blood, but not a lot of answers, Delaney muttered, standing over the crime scene. Gutierrez leaned in, scanning the surroundings. No sign of forced entry. It's almost like they knew the person, but who would have the guts to go after them like this? Delaney's jaw tightened. That's what we need to figure out. Let's talk to the witnesses first. As they approached the crime scene perimeter, Burgess and Ruzick were already speaking to a few witnesses, looking for anyone who could help piece together the puzzle. Delaney and Gutierrez took a moment to exchange a glance. They could feel the tension mounting. The case was personal. Whoever was behind this wasn't some random act of violence. There was strategy involved, something the team hadn't anticipated. The detectives eventually learned the victims had been using their business as a front for illegal dealings. As a result, the list of suspects became increasingly complicated. This wasn't a crime that could be solved by straightforward investigation, it was a game of chess. Delaney took the lead when it came to speaking to a key witness. A man who seemed to know the deceased, a local business owner whose store had been shot up just weeks before. Delaney stepped into the interrogation room, his presence commanding yet not overbearing. The witness, a middle-aged man, had already shown signs of fear. His shaky hands, dampened brow, and quiet voice confirmed that he knew more than he was letting on. Delaney leaned forward, his voice low. "We know you've seen something. If you want to make it out of this alive, you need to help us understand who was behind it." The man shifted in his seat. He was clearly reluctant, but Delaney's calm demeanor seemed to have an effect. Slowly, the man revealed something that took Delaney by surprise. The victims were once connected to a rival gang. The business deal that had spiraled into a deadly confrontation wasn't just about money, it was about power, about controlling the streets of Chicago. Delaney's brow furrowed. He looked over his shoulder at Leah. "It's bigger than we thought. This wasn't just a robbery gone wrong. This was an execution, and whoever did this is sending a message." The team was stunned by the revelation. They hadn't anticipated such a deep-rooted gang connection in the case. What began as a seemingly isolated incident was quickly growing into something much more dangerous. There was a certain tension in the air, everyone could feel it. Back at the precinct, Benjamin Levy Aguilar's portrayal of Delaney Williams as a seasoned but emotionally invested officer came to the forefront. His quiet intensity was palpable. As the investigation deepened, Delaney found himself torn between following his instinct and sticking to the evidence. His internal conflict was evident in his every move. The city's underworld was moving in the shadows, and Delaney was being forced to confront his own demons in the process. "Sometimes I feel like the city gets into your head," Delaney confided to Gutierrez late in the episode as they stood at the precinct's rooftop. The night stretched out before them, full of unanswered questions. The lines blur between what's right and what's necessary. You do the right thing and they come after you. You don't, and they come after you too. Gutierrez gave him a knowing look. "It's a dangerous game we're in, Delaney, but someone has to play it. Might as well be us." Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden ringing of Delaney's phone. The voice on the other end was short, with urgency attached. "We got a lead. We think we know who's behind it." The scene shifted quickly to a run-down warehouse near the river. The Chicago PD had finally tracked down one of the suspects, and it was a race against time to prevent further bloodshed. Delaney and Gutierrez, alongside the rest of the team, descended on the location. As the team moved in, Delaney's mind raced with all the possible outcomes, the shootouts that had taken place in similar situations, the near misses. But this time there was something more dangerous about the target. As they breached the warehouse door, Delaney's gut told him the man they were after wasn't just a foot soldier. No, this was someone connected to the very heart of the criminal operation that had fueled the violence in Chicago for years. He was no mere player in this game. The tension in the warehouse was palpable as they cornered the suspect. Delaney's instincts were right. The suspect wasn't backing down. There was a brief standoff, the air thick with tension. But Delaney, calm and calculating, managed to defuse the situation just in time. A gunshot rang out, but it wasn't aimed at Delaney. He had managed to take down the suspect before any harm could come to his team. The case was solved. The enemy was no longer a ghost in the shadows. As the sun rose over Chicago, the team reconvened at the precinct. The hard-fought victory didn't feel like victory to Delaney, though. He wasn't sure how to feel about the choice he'd made in the warehouse. As they debriefed, Delaney exchanged a glance with Gutierrez. They'd survived the case, but it wasn't without leaving a mark on them both. In the final scene, Delaney stood on the rooftop again, overlooking the city. His phone buzzed, a reminder of the job never stopping, but for now, he allowed himself a moment of silence. The game would start again tomorrow.